Scotia. We got Paris in the house. We got Palo Alto.
Palm Desert.
Do we have Palm Desert?
All right.
Yeah.
Vince.
We have Corona in the house. We don't want Corona in the house.
We got oh man, Vince, I can't say go Dodgers, man. I'm a Giants fan.
Oh man. Let's let our other panelists in. And are we switched to camera 4?
Yeah, we're on the screen now. Is Andy trying to join? Is he? Or
So guys, we'll get the show going in a little bit. We're going to give it a few minutes because panelists and attendees are still popping in. Looks like we got a pretty good number of people in right now. So we have San Fernando Valley. We know that because that's we're in the San Fernando Valley. We got London in the house.
Yeah.
That's cool. Guys, when we do these shows, we like to make them really interactive. So submit questions in the Q&A, submit questions in the chat. You'll see it's very interactive presentation that we'll be doing, and we'll be answering a lot of questions during and after and through the show. So keep the chat coming in, and also any serious questions you have, put them in the Q&A, and that's where we'll pull them up. So we have greetings from Research Triangle in North Carolina, and we got another one from France.
All right.
Jim, we've got Mike.
Hey, is Irene on? Is Irene on this yet?
She's in one of the attendees, I think, coming in.
yeah, she's in there.
Can you ask her to maybe just send the panelist link to Andy again? Because he might have gotten confused because I got so many emails. I wasn't sure which one was a panelist, which one was attendee.
Okay, sounds good. Great. And if you can switch to camera 4, and just is it possible to do like an overlay?
Yeah, maybe picture in picture.
Yeah.
So
Hey, like that.
There it is. There it is.
Hey.
Dallas, Texas, I see too. Okay.
We had Jersey, we had Dallas, Texas, a lot of France. I like that. Atlanta, Georgia, Copenhagen.
Berlin, we're coming. Hang in there.
Nice. All right.
Auburn. Look at that. Auburn's in the house.
Oh yeah, like that. So Gary, Andy, Doug, Tristan. Don't forget, lots of questions. Put them in the Q&A. We'll be starting in just a couple of minutes here. Waiting for our last panelist to show up. Oh, we got some weird drifting on that. Cool.
How many Canucks here? Yeah, I've seen a lot of Canada, which is interesting. We'll see on the helium coverage. We'll see how many of you folks are covered.
Yeah.
I think a good amount. We'll see. We'll put Frank to the test.
All right, great.
Cool.
We got our QA up.
Some questions.
Waiting for our last panelist. So Irene, if you could maybe text over to Andy Buffmeyer, then I think we'll be ready to go pretty soon here.
Yeah, we usually start these like 5 past the hour, so we'll probably get started within the next minute or so, but we do want to give a little bit of time for everybody. I still see people jumping in, so bear with us, guys. And we're looking forward to getting started. I'm glad to see so many of you hopping on those. This will be an exciting webinar. We're excited to talk to Frank. We've got a cool guest, Andy, on. Yeah, it'll be good. OC.
Hey, there's Andy.
All right.
Andy.
I used the other link and I was in the meeting, but not this way.
All right, well, here you are.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
We couldn't start the party without you, so now we're ready to rock and roll.
Okay.
All right, let's, what do you think? Should we do this thing? We've got some attendees in here. We got our panelists on the line, and go ahead, Cameron, let's kick it off.
All right, guys. Well, first of all, thank you guys so much for joining. We're really excited to do this. It's a series of webinars that you're going to see from the Mind Devices team. We're super excited to get kicked off with Helium. And we have some cool stories and cool announcements and things that we're going to talk about today. So thanks for joining. On the screen, you'll see the agenda here. So first, we're just going to start. I'm going to kick it off to Frank in the beginning, just for a few minutes, just to lay the ground on what helium is. We're going to pretend like you guys know nothing. Some might have some info, some others maybe not. So we're going to let Frank tell his story, and then we're going to pound him with some questions and see if we can break him down a little bit. But he says he's pretty tough, so we'll see what happens.
All right.
And then and then after that, we've got our My Devices CEO Kevin Bromber standing right next to me. So he's going to jump in and do the same thing on that side. And I know I'll break him with my questions. I'm not worried about that. So, and then after that, we're actually going to jump into a demo and a full overview of the launch. We're launching, the sensor and solution marketplace between My Devices and Helium. So you guys are going to get, access to that demo today. I'm going to show it on my screen, run through a live demo of the app, of the sensors, of the solutions. And everybody keep this interactive, be active in that Q&A as we're going. We're going to be answering questions as we go. This will be super casual. So as we're going, feel free to chime in with your questions or comments. If you want to poke fun at any of us, feel free. So Frank.
And we'll be closing out with Andy Buffmeyer, who's taken advantage of the Helium and My Devices collaboration, where he's going to market selling solutions to end customers. And we're going to hear his story about SignalSet. So why don't we go ahead and kick it over to
Actually, the most important part, we're talking about the partnership, and Andy is a product of that partnership, and he's going to tell his story today about, how this partnership has helped him. So, but yeah, we'll start. Frank, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Helium?
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Thanks to the team at My Devices. Really appreciate the opportunity. I'll share the screen with the audience for now, as I kind of give you a quick introduction of Helium and what Helium.
Yep, sounds like he cut out.
Yeah. Oops.
You cut out a little bit, Frank.
Okay. How about now?
Better.
Okay. Sorry about that. That started in San Francisco, California, about 7 years ago, with a mission and dream to build a global IoT network that was low cost, available, and open source, so that all IoT sensors can easily connect from wherever they are, where they're not limited to sort of in a building or in a home on Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, but they're connecting over long range, and they can run on batteries for many years, ideally. Discovered that LoRaWAN technology for us was the best fit. And so over that, we've been very fortunate to pick up several marquee investors, such as Mark Benioff and Coastal Ventures, Google Ventures, as well as Munich Re, backed us in Series B. And in our last round of Series C, we're funded by Union Square Ventures out of New York City and Multicoin Capital out of Austin, Texas. And what we did about 2.5 years ago was figure out finally, after tons of trials and errors, that the incentive was the key to building a network from a cold start perspective. And so we created something called the Helium blockchain. And the Helium something we've integrated into any and every LoRaWAN gateway. So some of the folks on the line here today are very familiar with LoRaWAN. We are 100% compatible to the LoRaWAN spec 1.0.x. And unlike some of the other network providers like Senet, Things Network, we don't own the network. So Helium is not a centralized network approach. We are very similar to the Things Network in that we're an ecosystem of volunteers in this case. The difference is they're incented. They're incented to mine the cryptocurrency HNT, and that incentive drives them to keep the network up and running because they own it, they operate it as individuals. And so similar to the vein of Things Network, our community now, which is about 35,000 strong, roughly 20,000 hotspots, gateways, hitting the blockchain, hitting the map. You can see now today we're at about 10,455. We get about 1 to 2 hotspots every couple of minutes added. So if I hit refresh on that, it'll probably change. I'm not going to do it right now because I'm on a cell network. The audience over the last roughly year and a half, and over the year and a half, we've in Europe. Later on today, in China as well, and so now it's shipping in early January, February timeframe. And this is, as you can see, North America. I think European friends as well. So I'll try to scroll. There are already Europe friends here. This is about on the map. These are all connected hotspots on the blockchain. There are many thousands more coming online soon. It's just a matter of us shipping, or our partners shipping on time. But this is roughly, I would say, a month and a half of work, maybe 2 months of work to expand into Europe like that, which probably now has a couple of thousand hotspots there. So pretty exciting. So what, right? We have now hopefully global coverage very soon. We're certainly in North America and Europe. The coverage is ideally useful, and it's hopefully useful to everyone. Again, we want everyone to connect. And so at least in the United States, what we started to do was a collection of roughly 35 volunteers in the Helium community volunteered to help us map the coverage. And the mapping of the coverage here means that they actually have these handheld LoRaWAN certified mapping sensors that have GPS getting geolocation, and they're sending that geolocation via LoRaWAN to Helium compatible gateways, and in this case, Helium hotspots and the RAC wireless gateways that are available now. We can see here the blue dots are the signal that's being transmitted and heard on the Helium network. And what I wanted to show you first is that from Washington, DC, someone took a flight, stuck their transmitter in their backpack, and they flew across to Clarksville, Tennessee. And this is very recent. So this all happened, this is data from the last 10 days or so. And so that mapping there shows you that even on an airplane, we can get some sensors to work across the United States. And as I zoom in on this area, you'll see purple dots. The purple dots are actually where the Helium hotspots are located. Again, these are owned by individuals like the folks on the phone. They're either IoT hobbyists or enthusiasts, they're crypto interested folks, or there's hardcore crypto mining people that are just setting up networks and mining the HNT. So a number of audiences are very different, but by and large, they're consumers, right? Not the traditional industrial IoT folks. I wanted to zoom in on Pittsburgh. So I chose Pittsburgh because it's not the typical tech center. I think most of you are used to seeing, mapping coverage in San Francisco, New York City. So that's no big deal. But I thought Pittsburgh was pretty cool to show you guys. We have a really strong community there. I'm really proud of that. And they're part of the Steel Belt. Hopefully soon they'll be part of the IoT belt across the United States. And the blue dots, again, are just where they've driven or walked in this case, and they're mapping sort of the dots. So this is, I think, kind of indicative of coverage, but more importantly, this is where they've traveled over the last 10 days or so. And again, the purple dots are the hotspots, as you can see. The light blue there is roughly -80 to -100 RSSI, which is a strength. So -80 is pretty darn good. -120, sort of like pretty weak, but still, you're getting signal, just less consistent. Again, this is within Pittsburgh. There's Heinz Field for those Steelers fans out there. I'm a Raider fan, so definitely not a Steeler fan, but hey man, I love the city of Pittsburgh. So Kevin, I just wanted to share with the audience, the network's there, it's available. Love for everyone to try it. Please go to helium.com to learn more, and we're super happy to partner with My Devices.
Yeah, no, it's great. So the coverage there, as you said, that's all like the map that you have, that's all community driven, just like the network's community driven. And you guys have really done a remarkable job of expanding that coverage across most of the country. Are you guys like indoor coverage versus outdoor coverage? Like what does that map tell me about, like if I walk into a restaurant and I want to put a sensor in a refrigerator, or if I walk into a building and want to do people counting, what does that coverage tell me about your indoor coverage, if anything?
Yeah, so I would say in the, we call it in the United States, the NFL cities. There's roughly 30 of them. In the NFL cities, our coverage now for a Helium network is probably in that 85 to 95% range, depending on the city. I would say Detroit, Michigan's probably our weakest. We got to do some work there. But certainly the others like Manhattan, Miami, San Francisco, Dallas, just amazing coverage. And in that case, if you're in a restaurant and you have an application, you should be able to just turn on a sensor and it'll just connect. Pointed to our Helium blockchain, which acts as a DNS for this IoT network in this case, it will just route your data back to your cloud, fully encrypted, very simple, very easy. Or using My Devices, it's, I think, a one button click and you're done. So again, it follows the LoRaWAN signal characteristics. So if you're familiar with LoRaWAN, it's got really long range. It can go through concrete nicely. But again, sub-gigahertz technology does have some limitations when it comes to metal, like any other wireless radio wave. Metal is not good for any wireless signal. So same with LoRaWAN. And I would say for sub-gigahertz, LoRaWAN signals tend to be, affected by trees and leaves and water condensation, things like that. So that's probably, again, very common. And most folks in IoT understand this from a sub-gigahertz technology perspective, but range is phenomenal. So we're talking, miles of range or kilometers of range. So I wouldn't worry about that. And it can go through buildings quite well. So like, for example, in the city of Manhattan, we've tested range that's inside a building as strong as, I would say 2 miles away. So if we're in like on Broadway in a shop, that we're getting coverage from Brooklyn, right? So that's amazing. And it's cutting through a lot of buildings there to do that. So those are some of the I would say examples. But again, it's very well documented within the LoRaWAN community.
Yeah. We see similar results inside of hotels. We've got customers that have deployed to hundreds of hotels and hospitals, and deep inside of refrigerators that are in basements, and it's pretty impressive technology.
Yeah, like down to, we did a test where we walked down to the 4th level of a parking garage. We were literally like in the basement, and it's concrete on top of concrete on top of concrete. And the client that we were working with wanted to see, if you push this panic button, if my my employee is down in a parking garage and I push this panic button, can they be saved? Will I know their location? Will the button work? And we actually ran the tests, and yeah, it worked just fine. It penetrated all those concrete walls and everything. So that's the power of the LoRa technology. And you made a good point, and it's a good segue over to Kevin's part. So Helium, just to kind of summarize that, you guys have done a great job, again, like I said, of building that community. The LoRa technology has been proven over and over again to sustain like these types of sensors and make deployments easy in terms of connectivity and getting that range. So Helium has stood up that network in a very short amount of time. And then what My Devices does, well, I'll let Kevin kind of give his 5-minute spiel on our portion of it. And then again, we'll talk about the combination and what that actually produces. So
it sounds good. So I'm just going to do a few slides here to give a background about My Devices, and then we're going to get into the fun part, which is Cameron actually doing a demonstration of the two technologies combined. So just the background on My Devices. So our mission in life has always been to simplify the connected world. How do we make things as easy as possible? And our business strategy is to enable our partners to deploy commercial-ready IoT solutions to their customers. So our customers are system integrators, managed service providers, subject matter experts. So we actually enable these companies to deploy finished solutions to their end customers. And what makes us different is that we have the pre-provisioned, pre-configured solutions that, like Frank said, all you've got to do is just scan the sensors and they immediately work. So in other words, you can create alerts, and you can you can create reports on these things, and you can make them work together. And the key here is we have one platform with infinite IoT solutions. And this is important because let's say you have a customer that's a hotel. Well, chances are they don't want to just do temperature monitoring in their refrigerator, in their cafeteria, because they have to do that for compliance, but they may also want to be doing monitoring of the pool equipment and the chlorine levels. In fact, that's a use case that's happening right now with one of our customers. And then they also need to do panic buttons, because that's a law as well, where the workers need to notify if they're ever feeling in trouble. So the problem is if you have 3 of those different vertical solutions, the hotel doesn't want to deal with 3 different vendors. So with one platform, you can solve all of those things. And like I said, this isn't new. We have hundreds of resellers and system integrators that currently sell real solutions to real customers today. So they sell to hospitals like Kaiser Permanente, Dignity Health, St. Luke's, and we're deployed inside of hotels like Marriott, Hyatt, Sheraton's, food service industry, golf clubs, campuses. So IoT really kind of goes everywhere. And the beautiful thing about being partnered with Helium is that if you've got the coverage, the Helium network, then you don't need the gateway. And so that just gives you instant availability just to pull out one of these sensors here and to immediately get up and going. So I'll summarize for us and then we'll kick over to Cameron. But the ability for you to start selling today. So you are able to create a white label brand of our application, and you can brand the IoT solutions that we have using the Helium network, and you can sell to your existing or to new customers. Again, hotels, hospitals, campuses, factories. And the key here is you're able to generate new monthly recurring revenue. That's the whole point of this thing, right? So you guys can actually go sell technology to end customers. So having said that, I say let's kick it over to Cameron and let's get into diving into the actual demo. And then we're going to kick over to Andy a little bit later, and he's going to talk about how he's taken the combination of this and how he's going to market.
Yeah.
So
before I jump into the demo, I did see a question pop up about, I want to use Helium Network, I want to use the My Devices solution, but I want my own web front, I want my own page, not the My Devices web front. So I'm going to give you 2 answers to that really quickly, and the demo will kind of support that as well. So first of all, you can white label our application with your logo and your colors. So everything that we've built, you can actually provide under your own brand. So that's number 1. And number 2, we actually have connectors that can connect into any third-party app, including an app that you've developed and created on your own. So a lot of our customers that are system integrators, they've built their own unique special platform. And the reason is because they're selling services beyond just sensors. They're doing cloud connectivity and IT infrastructure and things like that, security, and they want all of the data in that platform that they're already providing to their customers as a managed service. So we actually allow you to really easily just scan in any of these devices, automatically connect to the Helium network, and then forward the decoded, pre-programmed, normalized data into any application, including the My Devices app. So that's my answer to that question quickly. So, all right, on my screen now, well, maybe not on my screen, hold on, get out of presenter mode. Okay, so I'm gonna jump into the actual demo now. So this site that you're seeing is the My Devices sensor and solution marketplace. And what you'll see here is Push and Protect, for example, Countario, SimplySense, Predict Alert, and I'll let this video run, but there are hundreds of different solutions on this page that are pre-programmed, pre-configured, and all scan and use ready. So all of the different sensors or all the different solutions that you see here work on the Helium network out of the box. So the different solutions that we've identified, where we find these and where we come up with these is by seeing where market demand is and seeing where our customers are having success in deployments. So Countario is simply just a solution where we put wireless people counters in buildings so that we can track occupancy levels going in and out, which is critical with the new COVID impact. It's also prior to COVID, it was used in bathrooms to optimize cleaning schedules. So you know that if 20 people go into that restroom, send an alert or create a work ticket to go clean it. SimplySense, that's a solution geared around taking temperature sensors and putting them in refrigeration units, freezers, vaccine storage, blood storage, lab samples in order to automate temperature compliance. Predict Alert has to do with taking a predictive maintenance sensor, sticking it on a large motor or a pump, and getting predictive maintenance reports on it. So if I go to any of these different solutions and I click Learn More, for example, and go into what's included, what you'll see is that you can actually use these directly on the Helium network. So you can grab a sensor just like this and scan it into the app, and then it immediately connects to the Helium network. And that's true not only for the solutions that you see here, but as I scroll down, there's hundreds of different sensors that you can mix and match to create your own custom solution aside from the ones that we actually have prepackaged. So temperature sensors, like the one Kevin's showing here on the camera, and there's just hundreds of these sensors that exist today for leak detection, for motion, for air quality, for smoke, rodent traps, like almost anything that you can think of, there's a sensor for.
In fact, I would challenge the audience to come up with a sensor that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, it's pretty funny.
We get that all the time. People come and say, hey, my customer needs to do that, like the pH levels in the pools and the chlorine levels and things like that. And, and Andy will talk a little bit about that as well. Electrical submetering, panic buttons, trackers. So anyways, I think you guys get the point. The most important thing about this is that these devices are pre-programmed, pre-provisioned, pre-configured, and they all come with a QR code. So when you open the My Devices app, you scan the QR code. You don't have to do anything else. Buy it, scan it, use it. That's what we say. So what happens once you scan that QR code is, number one, the data is then shown in the My Devices app. Now, this is the app that's customer facing. It's used by companies like Kaiser Permanente to monitor their vaccines. It's used by, Kevin shared some of our hospitality clients that are using this, facility management companies. This is what you guys are able to put your logo and your colors on and act like it's your solution and offer to your customers as your own solution. So what happens is you scan the device in, you get to choose many of those solutions, any of those sensors, and then you get to go in and in the actual portal here, you can see multiple different locations, for example. So if your customer's got 30 restaurants, they can see all of those locations on a map. Select one of those locations and see all of the different sensors that are in that location, and then click on one of those devices and see, historical data readings, images, charts. They can set up alert thresholds. If it's too hot or too cold, air quality is bad, there's a leak. They can indicate, who they want to receive text and or email alerts based on that sensor data. Choose from an unlimited list of contacts. You can do sensor mapping, so customers can upload a floor plan of their location and then see all of the different sensors in that location. Click on one and see the data, do corrective action. If there's a problem, what do they do to fix it? There's user management. They can put unlimited list of contacts that have view permissions or edit permissions and other things. So all of those features, those are all the features basically that you need to successfully deploy an IoT solution, and they all come bundled up in our app that you can white label with your logo and your colors. And to make it work, all you have to do is just scan in any of the sensors that we have in our marketplace, or any of the prepackaged solutions. And through our partnership with Helium, it's connected to the network immediately. There's literally no work you have to do other than go find the business, scan in the sensor, and deploy it. So
yeah, and one of the questions was, if they install one of these sensors, will the hotspot participate in the network data transfer? So what happens is this connects to the gateway, but if you sign up with My Devices, we pay for those data credits. So that's included in the cost of your subscription with us, is that we pay for the data credits of these devices being connected.
yeah, so it's really important. It truly is turnkey, all the way from the network management, connectivity, the actual devices working, communicating the way you want them to communicate, decoding the data, setting up the alerts, reports, and everything that you need. It's all plug and play. So are there questions? I mean, hopefully you guys are putting some stuff in there. And Kevin, is there anything I missed or anything that I should go over?
No, I don't think so. Did you show the back-end console for the being able to manage customers? So the whole key to this, right, is that you guys can white label this platform, put your name on it, and then when you put your name on it, the end customer gets to use that application either on the iPhone, Android, or on the web. But what Cameron was showing you was a back-end console where you can manage multiple customers, so that you can do like reset passwords, remote assistance. You can see what devices they have connected. So it lets you actually run a real business. Now, our customers currently are some pretty big customers, like T-Mobile uses our platform. BASF, world's largest chemical company, uses a platform. And there's many others that I can't say the names, but there are some pretty big companies that actually use this platform. So it's very good for going to market.
Yeah. And then one other thing that's critical about this is our different device templates. So, this is for you guys just to kind of understand some of the value that's provided in our platform is when you scan these sensors into the app, we actually have device templates in here that make it, that's why it's so easy for you guys. We know the decoder that's needed for that device. We know the image. So when you scan it in, you can actually see, how to turn it on, how to use it, how to reset it, how to, all the troubleshooting steps that might need to take place if something's not working. All of that's packed into these device templates that make it really, really easy for you to deploy.
Yeah, so that was interesting because one of our chat was asking, can we create custom decoders? The answer is yes. So if you can cut to like one of the images here of this, zoom in on this if you could. So this temperature sensor, the reality is that you do get a payload, and we include all of the payload decoding from there, but we can create custom decoders as well. So this sensor may have more than one purpose. And so we create these different use case device templates, and that's what Cameron was showing you, is the ability to do the decoders just on a simple temperature sensor. So, you have something like a leak sensor, and the same situation, you might want to have it recording at different times. We have the ability to make those modifications inside the application and for your use case.
Yeah, and some other ways that we were using these device templates is minor tweaks, like a door sensor, for example. Some customers want to know if the door is open or closed. Others want to know how long was the door open or closed. Others want to know how many times was the door open or closed. So by making tweaks, by having all the tools back here to make slight tweaks, it really is endless the types of deployments you can deploy at that level. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. So.
Yep.
So maybe at this time, do we want to jump to Andy? Does it make sense? Or are there questions that we should answer before transitioning over?
Let's go ahead and talk to Andy and get a little bit background on Andy and ask how he's doing it, and then we'll gather some of these questions. We'll start answering along the way.
All right, Andy, thank you so much for joining. Just to preface this for everybody, and Andy, you can tell your story on your own, but we met on the phone, was it maybe a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago at most, and kind of gave this demo to you. You had, connected to us through the Helium group. You were looking to deploy sensors on the Helium network. And guys, the first time I talked to Andy, I was like blown away by all of his wheels were turning. And I think we unlocked that for him. Like, hey, we provide the sensors. You just need to scan them in. You tell us what you want to do. We'll go find the hardware. We'll give it to you, make sure it's all working. Like, you just keep coming with your ideas. And that's what I loved about Andy and why we really wanted him on the show today, because there's just some things that, we wouldn't even think about. And this happens quite honestly pretty frequently. People come to us with ideas and we're like, oh yeah, that's great. And we realize, yeah, we can do that actually. Here you go. So Andy, why don't you give us a little background on who you are, where you come from, and what drove you to Helium and what drove you to My Devices, and yeah, tell your story.
Glad to do it. Now, can you hear me well?
Perfect.
Okay, good. And I've put up a little PowerPoint. Can you display that? Is that possible?
Share your screen.
Yeah, you should be able to click share screen on the bottom.
Okay, I'm going to have to do that down here. Give me just a second.
Okay.
Okay. You guys seeing that?
No, we see you.
Oh, here it goes.
There
it
we
is.
go.
All right.
Okay.
But I'm going to step over and see if I can get it so that it just shows Andy. But go ahead.
Can you see this there?
Yep.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can.
good.
You're perfect.
All right. Okay. Quick background. You guys on this call may have noticed a lot of gray hair and a little gray beard here, but I've been playing in the wireless space for over 20 years. I was on the startup team at Sprint. Literally $2 billion in spectrum, $7.5 billion in cash. Go build a nationwide network. I was in the legal side, then in business development. Fast forward, I've worked at Microsoft in unified communications and did 2 venture-backed startups in wireless telecom. Currently, I work with half-time with the University of Utah as a research corporate ambassador, and have helped put together a grant to go after a $25 million platform for advanced wireless research that's been deployed on the University of Utah campus. It's a 5G test bed. And I'll come back to that later in this little presentation. But I learned about Helium and my devices through my son, who works at France Telecom in the Bay Area. And as Kevin mentioned, we had some calls, and I look at this and I understand the complexity of the system and what they have done to take out of this operation, this activity between Helium and my devices, and somebody like me, the complexity. So if you're looking at the screen, you see SignalSet to the right. That's my brand. I've held on to a URL for signalset.com for a dozen years and was always looking for a place to use it because I think it's a good brand for this particular platform and activity. Outdoor networks for IoT. What do we do? SignalSet. We provide the IoT services in the Salt Lake area. And that includes hardware from my devices, software from Helium Networks, coverage from Helium Networks, location services. Then we can deliver, because we're using these platforms, notifications and analytics. Pretty extraordinary. And here is what's going on. The LoRa Alliance is a nationwide group that's come up with common standards and high security protocols for long range, low power networks. And again, we're using that underlying technology with Helium Network and my devices. And then here are the kind of sensors we're looking at placing in this market. One that I am particularly interested in on the Industry 4.0 side is a predictive maintenance sensor, which is a device that can actually be attached to a piece of equipment, start measuring its standard operating sounds and vibration. And then when it starts going out of those standard ranges, can alert somebody. And that's very, very interesting, as I was part of a team at the University of Utah that put together a group called the Utah Advanced Materials Manufacturing Initiative. And it's a group of about 120 companies doing manufacturing in advanced composites. And I'm interested in this sensor for the equipment they use in that manufacturing. Here's just a dashboard that you can get access to when you're part of this whole system. And again, this can be private labeled for our purposes as SignalSet. This is Salt Lake City, Utah. And this is in 1 year of the Helium deployment. There's 40 plus access points in the Salt Lake Valley. Now, I will tell you, there's a number of those that are SignalSets, but this is extraordinary, having been involved with the deployment of wireless coverage networks historically, that this has been up and running and now working in Salt Lake City in approximately 1 year is phenomenal to me. And one thing I'd like to talk about, given my background, is why would I do this? I mean, you see the gray hair, because the reason is I'm pretty embedded in what's going on in terms of wireless and the future of wireless. As I said, as part of a team that put together a big grant to get an advanced wireless research project in Salt Lake City, Utah. And what I see happening is a convergence of networks and integrated solutions using different networks for different purposes, and ultimately the integration of those networks using artificial intelligence in the cloud. If you look at 4G LTE, that's one of these that we've got out in deployment now, moving to 5G. 5G does extraordinary things. It increases the data rates by about 100 times. And we move from 100 milliseconds of latency to sub 5 milliseconds. To give you a sense of what that means, the human body communicates to itself when you snap your fingers at about 10 to 11 milliseconds of latency. The other major sort of pathway I see that integrates potentially or in the future with LoRaWAN is private LTE. And as folks on this call deal with industry, deal with companies that are trying to do things on Wi-Fi, it's not working. Wi-Fi is getting overcrowded and unusable for mission critical functions for enterprises. So what's happening is there's a move to private spectrum, replacing Wi-Fi, providing secure, high quality of service networks, smart factories, ports, and supply chains. Well, these are both 4G LTE, 5G, and private LTE are all high throughput, high volume, high density networks. But what gets really significant is to use LoRaWAN as an ancillary network to that, providing high volume, cost effective data points. 1,000 points of data that can be integrated with these very advanced high speed networks. And again, with LoRaWAN, you get long battery life, wide area coverage, low cost, and high noise immunity. In fact, the encryption parts of the LoRaWAN network are really very impressive because it's a spread spectrum chirp technology that's used, and it's very secure. So we've got a secure and open standard. And ultimately, I think that the long range, low power, bursty data sensors become critical to integrated solutions that rely both on those networks, 5G, 4G, and private LTE. Join us. That's it. Hope I didn't
Awesome.
talk too much.
No, it's great. Actually, I think it's, it's interesting. The way you're thinking of this is similar to some of like the largest companies in the world that we talk to that understand IoT this way. But what I like about you, Andy, is that you're able to actually act on it and move. A lot of times we get in these conversations, and the concept is there. People get it, but they're stuck in litigation and weird things inside of their company. And I think you've kind of nailed it with there's all these different things in IoT and 5G, and there's LoRa, and there's Wi-Fi, BLE, and all of this, and it all kind of plays its role. And that's where we kind of specialize in. We do what we do, and we're happy to kind of help you out with that section of what you're ultimately trying to accomplish, which is a little bit of everything, and kind of round it all out.
Ultimately, what you're going to see developing out of these networks and the other higher speed networks are the creation of digital twins and pulling together of all that data in a digital twin, so you can start doing things like one of the projects I'm working on is to use these devices to build a digital twin of a water district, so you can start gaming how you move the water around if an earthquake occurs. Pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah. How did you end up connecting with Helium? I know it was through your son you originally got connected, but I know you're getting pretty close with those guys over at Helium. Can you explain that a little bit? Like, what was your relationship there? How'd that all evolve?
Candidly, my son, who works at France Telecom, introduced me to Helium and its concept. And one of the problems with the LoRaWAN systems is you're looking at low volumes of data and for particular purposes. And the problem is the CapEx to build a global network to support such a platform is very, very high. It's one of the reasons that a lot of competitors have had a hard time doing it, and because they moved to a proprietary standard because they want to get a return against the deployment of all that capital. Well, Helium intrigued me because they're looking at essentially outsourcing the CapEx and then creating an open source platform for the long range low power network. That's extraordinary because all of a sudden you get a model that makes sense financially.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So one of the QA questions that came in is, it says, in order to launch a solution on the network with My Devices sensors, do I have to purchase credits for the Helium network separately? The answer is no. If you sign up with My Devices and you're deploying through our application, we're paying the data credits as part of that cost. Another question that was asked was, and I think it was more of a clarification, they were asking if they have a Helium hotspot itself actually doing mining rewards for network data transfers. He was trying to confirm that one of these devices is installed in my house, and can he get rewards? And the answer is yes, you will get your reward. So if your hotspot is providing the connectivity, then you will be rewarded. So the data credits, you will be rewarded for that.
So I'm going to pause there. Think about that for a second for everybody here that came from the Helium community into this webinar. The hotspots that you're putting out there, the ultimate goal is to feed sensor data into those hotspots so you can mine credits and all that. And so the network's being built up, but then now using that network and actually getting traffic on that network. Well, how do you do that, right? You've got to go find a sensor, a manufacturer, program the device, connect it to the Helium network server, app keys, app UIs, dev UI, all of that, and then get it connecting and get it talking. But with my devices, you go to the marketplace, buy a sensor, scan it in, turn it on, and it's going to talk to your hotspot. So it's a really good question. It's important. I wanted to highlight that a little bit. That really is, it just completes the story, right? The network's built, and now we've made it so easy to leverage that network. As Andy has seen as well. So yeah, more questions. It looks like.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time reading it because I'm old and it's far away.
All right, hold
and it's
on,
so
let's see.
small.
Yeah,
You're
Jason,
young.
do you mind pulling that? Can you make that? Yeah, well, that didn't help. All right, let's see. Battery life for temperature and humidity sensors. So battery life in general, guys, on all these devices, you're going to get years and years of battery life, but it really comes down to how often it's transmitting. So for a typical temperature deployment, we'll have those things send readings once every 20 minutes, and they'll last 5 years, maybe more, maybe a little bit less. For the panic button solution, if I push this panic button and it goes into distress mode, it's going to die within maybe an hour, but it's rechargeable with USB. If it's sending once a day, it can last years or months. So it just kind of varies just based on the sensor, but it comes down to how often it's pinging, and then the particular use case for that device. So yeah, let's see.
And hey, Frank, I've got a question for you, Frank. So it seems like Helium is starting to catch a lot of momentum. I shouldn't say start. It's got momentum. It's kicking ass. What are some of the use cases that you're hearing and seeing that businesses and customers are looking for? I'd be curious to know from the Helium perspective.
Sure, Kevin. By the way, I shut off my video just so that my audio doesn't cut out. I was getting feedback from the community saying that they couldn't hear me, so I apologize for that. I would say the top two, by far, biggest use cases that Helium has come across, and I'm sure it's very similar for my devices as well, because I think on some of these opportunities we're partnered together, is I would say number one, water management, and that's water metering to water leak detection. And that could be something as consumer oriented as toilet leaks, to something more complex where it's in a apartment building water main, and they need to see and monitor the water flow and water pressure. So believe it or not, folks, and this is not limited to United States, this is, I think, a common problem that we're seeing globally, where water, I think we overlook how scarce water is now, and the ability to make that more efficient, the ability to manage that and monitor that is crucial. So for IoT and platforms like My Devices and networks like Helium, it's the perfect use case. I know it's not sexy, it's not something you and I think about first, but it absolutely is crucial for IoT. But also, I would say it's the value that you get from that, the information and data you can collect, can really be game changing for humanity as we try to control our water consumption. So that's one, and I think you would agree with that, Kevin. Number two is really around supply chain asset tracking. We had early on a customer called Lime Bikes, Lime Scooter. They're a scooter sharing company headquartered in San Francisco. And in the early days, and certainly I think still today, they had a lot of problem with a scooter that's $600 to $1,000 on the street, staying on the street for more than 20 days. And many times those things were stolen. They were, taken, repurposed, or hidden inside, basements and garages, right? They could not find these things using cellular technology. Unfortunately, range and battery is a problem in many ways, but using LoRaWAN and the Helium network, they're able to actually solve a lot of that from a tracking and tracing perspective. But beyond scooters, I would say in the supply chain, cold chain world, really improving barcode systems and RFID, which is used by, I would say, majority, if not all, pharmaceuticals as they manufacture pharmaceuticals and send those in across the world. They really want a better way to track that, and especially for high value medicine like cancer medication. And so we're seeing a lot of interest and a lot of testing happening in that arena, where it's around supply chain, cold chain, tracking and tracing.
Yeah, no, that's good. In fact, if we can switch over to Cameron's computer here, let's go ahead and take a look at the water sensor. So just as an example, go ahead and go to our store and just go down to Axioma. So here's one of the sensors that we have for water metering. In California, it's now a law that new construction of multifamily units requires that a person install these for each individual unit. Because what's happening is the multifamily units, they're paying for all the water. And what happens is if a tenant has a leak, they're not really motivated to tell the multifamily. And in the United States alone, there's 1 billion gallons of wasted water per year. And so this sensor, you can scan it, install it, and immediately starts working, and you can set up alerts. Let's go to the water quality one from Aqualabo. So just as an example of, we were talking about the variety of different sensors that are available. This does water quality for wastewater treatment plants, pools, streams. It does things like turbidity, pH. We can just stay on the big picture. And we're actually even working on a toilet sensor that just specifically has artificial intelligence in it. It tells you if the toilet is flushing in the middle of the night when it shouldn't be. Again, trying to save hundreds of millions of gallons. In fact, 30% of all wasted water is because of running toilets inside of a facility.
Yeah, and I actually, there's something in the chat that came slightly related. Somebody was asking about a sensor. Hey, I heard about this sensor that's a LoRa sensor from this manufacturer, and it does X, Y, and Z. Again, that's a role we play. Like what you just saw happen there. Frank said, hey, some great use cases that LoRa solutions and the Helium network can provide are things like water quality and water utilization. And as you can see, where we dial in and where we live is, oh, okay, Frank, yeah, I understand that. Here in our marketplace are a water quality sensor and a water utilization sensor. And I challenge the audience and even you, Frank, to say, hey, here's a use case and a sensor that we need. And we either have it in the marketplace or we know the manufacturer to go to, and we bring it all in so that it's scanned and usable, right? So I wanted to just point that out with the appropriate moment, because there was a question about some device and if it would work on Helium and through my devices and all of that. And the answer is always yes with these LoRa devices. This is what we specialize in, is bringing them in, integrating them, programming them, and all of that.
And somebody was asking about cost. Sorry, go ahead, Frank.
No, I was going to add, Kevin, I've been looking in the LoRaWAN space, not as long as you, but for about 3 years now. And I have to say, you guys have done a phenomenal job of really testing compatibility and aligning your platform so that at least all the LoRaWAN devices that are built to spec just automatically works on your platform. That's amazing. And so I really want to give you guys kudos for doing that. And that really inspired Helium to follow suit to ensure that our network is 100% compatible on the LoRaWAN spec, and we don't veer away from that at all. So that you like you said, any LoRaWAN device will just automatically work on Helium and my devices.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks. I think people are going to start to realize if you just go get a sensor right here and you try to connect it up, it's going to be a lot of work. But with us, yes, we're able to just simply make it work. And so Cameron is showing on his screen, the cost. So, our business model is actually selling to system integrators, managed service providers. So we're looking for companies who want to go B to B to X. Now, having said that, if you wanted to just buy some sensors, try out the application, He's showing the pricing here. It's $19 a month. It gives you up to 3 devices. Again, we pay for all the data credits. Now, that does not give you the ability to resell and to get into business. If you want to resell and get into business, you'd contact us and we can give you all of the details. And somebody in the Q&A, they had asked, do we have a referral program? The answer is yes, because there's a lot of companies out there, or people who may not want to go into that type of business. And if you refer, we do have a referral program. We can talk to you about that as well. Yeah, I want to make sure I'm catching all the questions in here. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
Yeah, and while Kevin's digging through that, I know we're getting close to the top of the hour, so sometimes people drop off because they have calls and other things to get to. So I want to take the quick moment here to just say thanks to everybody, and thanks to Frank, and thanks to Andy. And I'm personally really excited about all of this. I mean, it's been a long time coming where we went through some cycles of just banging our heads against this hardware. And the really cool part about the timing right now is, for everybody on the call right now, you guys are in this like moment of time that's just so perfect, where you've got guys like Frank and the Helium team just doing their part so well and accelerating it so well. And then you've got us doing our part so well. When that comes together, you guys get to benefit from that. I mean, the reality here is that IoT there will be billions of sensors connected to networks like the Helium network. And what it takes, like in any industry, when you look at any industry that's really shaken things up or been successful, it's been about making things easy. And that's what we're trying to do here. So you guys really do get to benefit from that. I mean, you can go out, find somebody that needs a water quality sensor, and right away where you can get it, that it will work by scanning it. You can put it in and then provide that to them as a service very, very easily. So that's my, summary of what's going on here. And I don't know, is there any other questions or anything that we need to answer? But
yeah, no, I'd like to thank everybody for coming. And Frank, Andy, thank you so much. Was there anything else that you guys would like to add? But let me know. Is there anything that you guys would like to put onto the top of that?
No, I want to say thank you guys. Thanks, Kevin, and thank you to your entire team. You guys are phenomenal. So I appreciate the opportunity to chat about my devices and Helium. Andy, thank you so much for your time and sharing your experience with both of us. I think the collaboration is awesome already, but it's going to be fantastic as we roll out in Salt Lake City.
Thank you, everybody. And I do appreciate all that back office work you've done. Having had to do it before, I have no desire to do it.
Well, you're welcome.
I love it.
And before we sign off, because I did just see one question, I think it's important. If you go to mydevices.com/helium, that's where you will find this. Click the button to see all solutions. You'll see the marketplace. All you need to do is you can scroll through any of these. If you want 2 of these and 1 of these, and can you just show my screen, Jason, real quick? So you just go through the marketplace here. You can see 1 of these and just grab 2 of these. And once you get to the marketplace, you can just pick and pack your sensors. Just make sure you select network, Helium network, and they will come pre-provisioned on the Helium network for you. So you can use this checkout right here. The demo price, as we showed, $19 a month gets you up to 3 devices, $2 a month a device after that. And then if you want to talk about scaling, we do have volume plans for resellers and white label plans. So contact us. There's contact forms all over the site, and we will jump on a call. And again, thank you everybody so much. Thanks to Frank and the Helium team. Andy, thanks for jumping on. And we will see you guys next time. Thursday, we're on with Advantech and their predictive maintenance sensor. So don't miss that webinar. That's on Thursday, 2 days from today. So sign up. You guys there.
Thanks, guys.
See you guys.
Take care.